when we talked about having these, first of all, it was just going to be election night. It was going to be election night, and you convinced me that we should have more than just one night. Why do we need so many nights? Why is it this Wednesday and next Wednesday, and then Tuesday, and then Wednesday again, Thursday for a community meeting? What is it? What are you seeing, man? Because I'm traveling a lot. I'm out every single weekend. Just got back from Georgia yesterday, and I'm headed to Arizona on Friday, and then Pennsylvania. So me and the fieldwork team we've been heads down knocking doors. But what are you seeing now? Because you got a view that I don't have because you get to sit back and do a lot more listening. What are you seeing? Why?
Well, the goal here is this thing that we're calling the final stretch, the last month of the campaign, and literally the final period of time, but also our final stretch as an organization and as a community, a group of people. And uh, what's going to happen in 2 weeks is that the election is going to be, people will be done voting. We won't be done counting votes as of November 5th, but we will be done voting. And we as an organization and we as a community, in my view, I just want to make sure that people know that we're dialed in to this on a daily basis, and that we're following along, and that people can join us for all these four sequences of events. So I never want to just show up at the crisis moment, right? You don't want
Yeah,
to do that.
right.
You want to have a relationship with people. And so this Wednesday, and then next Wednesday, and then election Tuesday, day after that on Wednesday, we are going to have these events called the final stretch. And so the goal is to be together, to talk about what we're seeing, how we're processing. CP is a community. You exemplify that, Charles, in how you kind of lead this organization. And so, if you can have one really good potluck on a Wednesday, then I'm like, let's have a couple potlucks on a Wednesday. And so this is the first of three. And you know, we do a lot of analysis of the data and what the evidence is telling us about the election. So let's do one and tell people what we're seeing.
Okay. So hold on. So first of five, actually. Okay,
Oh,
because we're
first,
yep, 3 Wednesdays, a Tuesday and a Thursday, right? Election day is a big one where we're coming together.
that's right.
And then Thursday is our planned community meetings. So we have community meetings, Zooms once a month, first Thursdays. So we decided to keep that one. But I get what you're saying about multiple touches. And this is, you said we're, for the final stretch is the last month. It's really the last couple weeks. And I know you've been saying it since last week. This is partly an ask from you that is for dollars, but it's also for anything that people can give. And a lot of people are given time and energy out in the field.
Yeah,
So this is both a realization that that is happening, a push for more, and also a communal foundation to get us through this period. A lot of analysis with the data that's been coming in. If you've been watching the With CP episodes daily that David's done, there has been a couple back-to-back ones that have been fabulous. There have been, him doing some of his own analysis of polls, which is really informative for us and good for our psyche as we're inundated with information, and he helps us to cut through that. The other one is early polling data, and we're going to dig into that some more tomorrow, actually, because that information is coming in volumes. And as you say on those podcasts, early voting is way better than polling. Polling is all we've had for a long time, but early voting is voting is the best poll. It's the best poll.
absolutely. And I just figured out why I wasn't getting the waiting room lift. I got it figured out now. So everybody's in now that's around, or we can see when they're coming in.
Okay.
Um, so this particular evening, this one tonight, Charles and I are going to talk a bit about data we're seeing in analysis in some polls, ones we can trust, and in early voting data. And then Charles is going to talk a bit about what you're seeing out in the field too at the doors and with the teams that we have out there. So everybody, you got a chance to drop questions in chat. It's a very interactive space. But I want to start with something that we've been talking about in the podcast for the last couple of days, which is the ways in which polls that are an omnipresent presence in a political campaign like this, certainly the last month, are easily manipulated. And if we are not mindful of that, and if we don't know what we're tasting, essentially, then the reality is that we can be manipulated right with them. And when there's a entity, a body of folks that are really, really wanting to manipulate polls, they build a body of evidence and findings and a narrative that we can really think of as propagandistic. It's really propaganda. All right.
So hold on. I think before we dive in there, the idea that people would intentionally manipulate polls, you're going to talk about how and which ones, and you're going to go into some detail. But why? Why are they manipulating the polls?
Because in our immediate environment in the United States, the way that poll result, like who's winning and who's losing, is talked about is driven by the polls. So Biden's losing because the polls say he's losing. Harris is winning because the polls say she's winning. Trump's winning because he says the polls say he's winning. So the poll data is assumed in that narrative to be done in an independent way in which nobody's manipulating them. If you're going to put that much stock in the polls and our emotions tied to what's going on in the polls, then we got to believe that the polls are independent, but many of them are not. So if we understand that, if we understand that there are people out there that are trying to manipulate the polls, not all polls, but certain subsets, then we begin to know which ones to look at. That's the key. Which ones
Okay.
to look at. All right. And roughly, there are like two kinds of polls. There are quality polls and there are crap polls. All right. That's roughly it. And
Yeah.
the kind of distinguishing body is like good chocolate chip cookies, Charles. There are good
Oh,
chocolate chip
whoa,
cookies
whoa, whoa.
that do not have nuts in them. And
Oh
there
my
are crap
gosh.
chocolate chip cookies that have nuts in them.
You
Okay.
know, if you wanted to derail this entire thing, you go there. Let me just say, I'm going to be the bigger person. I'm going to put a pin in this.
Okay.
I would say that all chocolate chip cookies are good.
Okay. Great.
The ones that I prefer have nuts in them, sir. Okay.
It's really,
You
really
know why? Because we've got to come together. We don't need more
okay.
division. We
Okay.
don't need
Good.
more
Good.
division, David. We've got to
It's
heal
true.
this country. Okay. And we're going to heal across cookies. All right. We'll come back to that later. That's a little note on our pod that we did yesterday. Today? Yesterday. I don't remember. But
This was
a lot of
today.
talk about cookies. We love
Right.
cookies.
So crap polls and good polls,
Okay.
or crap polls and quality polls. What makes a quality poll a quality poll? It's funded by someone that doesn't have a partisan agenda, and it's designed by someone that doesn't have a partisan agenda. Those are two different things. One is who funds it, and one is who conducts it. That
Okay.
makes a quality poll a quality poll. Not funded by a partisan entity and not designed by a partisan entity. What makes a crap poll? Well, the opposite of that. It's ones that are funded by partisan entities and ones that also are strategically designed for partisan entities. And in the United States, in the last, really since about 2008, the number of crap polls that have emerged have been a very intentional strategy by Republicans to try to create a storyline. So here's how that worked. Look in 2022. In 2022, there was a storyline. That storyline was big red wave, right?
Yeah.
Republicans are going to sweep. And of course, there's historical evidence that would suggest that the Republicans were going to sweep in 2022 because it was the midterms. There were Democrats in the White House. Joe Biden's approval rating wasn't very good. Inflation was high. So to construct that narrative was an easy narrative. You add a few polls to it. You add some polls that show this, and all of a sudden you got people saying red wave, red wave, red wave, red wave. But post Dobbs decision, the polls do not tell us as much as early voting post Dobbs decision. Okay. So 2022
Yeah.
never turned out to be a red wave. So that's what they're trying to do again this year, is to convince us that this is going to be a Trump wave, a Trump
Yeah.
wave. Okay.
And some of this is into the why. Some of this is fundraising. Okay, they are shameless fundraisers, and a bunch of people in their ecosystem just straight up pocket the money. And the others, so they more strategically, so that they can get us to give up. And
Exactly.
some people do on our side when they see the polls going back and forth, or they see that it's too close. You see dollars, like really consequential dollars, start to pull out of some of these races or shift from one race to another, from the presidential to the Senate to the House, that kind of thing. So these have these are consequential. All right. So you're gonna dig into this presentation. Before you do that, I just want to say to Steve, who's bringing chocolate chip cookies to Philly, I will be there, sir. I will be there, and I will consume those with you. Thank you.
Maybe I'll come. Okay, maybe I'll come. All right. So,
Good. That's good. That's what it takes. That's really, although Lori just said she'll make some Seattle ones, which is
yes.
Lori, we're not ready for that debate. Okay, that's bringing up some scars from back in the day. David
So
David stolen some of my cookies before. All
I
right,
do want
let's get to the slides.
right. I want to, but I also want to add one more piece, which is
Yeah,
because I've been doing a lot of public talks since the mid 2000s, and an awful lot of people have followed my lectures and have come and have listened to me, and it has been an honor, an honor. Because of that, though, I'm like a trigger. I'm a trigger for people when I'm out in public. People see me and they immediately bring to me their woes. Okay. They bring to me their fears and their anxieties and all this. So I do get an awful lot of people who tell me, my God, the polls, the
yeah,
world's going to die. And Charles, you're out in the field doing great work, but I'm kind of here fielding those requests. And so it's really
yeah,
important to kind of first know where we're at. Okay.
yeah. This is good. Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about Republican polling propaganda. Simon Rosenberg, who's a Democratic strategist, said this a couple days ago. He said, Republicans dropped 5 polls into the national polling averages today, moving the 538 average. That's over 70 plus red wave polls, at least 29 different orgs. And then there's polymarket voodoo. Polymarket is a betting market where people can vote, and it's clear that it's being manipulated by big Trump supporters. Okay. They just keep working the averages and they keep moving, just like 2022. And they would only be doing it if they were losing. Like, why would you bother with this? Right?
Yes. Right.
Okay. So
Okay. So hold on before you go into this. 538, man. Should we stop looking at 538?
no, 538 is fine. It's not Nate Silver's place anymore. He's not there anymore.
Yeah.
538 is a poll aggregator. That's what there's multiple poll aggregators out there. Real Clear Politics is a very conservative poll aggregator. They often will not include independent polls because they don't like what they say.
Hmm.
538 is pretty middle of the road, and then Vote Hub is a pretty liberal polling aggregator. So 538 is still a good one. Okay.
Okay. Okay. And then just to be clear too, because someone asked about Nate Silver. There's Nate Silver, and then there's another Nate,
Nate Cohn of the New York Times.
and we like one of them better, right?
No, not really. Um,
I thought
uh,
one of them was a shyster who's like selling the polar coaster thing or whatever.
yeah, that's more Silver, right? That's Silver because
Yeah,
Silver's funded by the same owner of Polymarket. What's his name? Teal,
that's right.
the same guy. But Nate Silver. So I'm not looking. 538 is not Nate Silver anymore. It's just poll aggregation. Okay, it's just poll aggregation.
Okay.
Um, so just real quick, a quality poll again is one that's funded by an independent entity and designed by an independent entity. What does this include? It does include the New York Times polls. It includes ABC polls, NBC polls, Quinnipiac polls, Marist polls, YouGov, Morning Consult, uh, Monmouth, Marist, Fox. Fox polls are actually funded and designed by independent entities. There's a whole ton of these. And then crap polls, they're ones that are funded and strategically designed by partisan entities. So let's just look real quick here at a couple things. Let's look at the favorability ratings of the two main candidates, Harris and Trump. And all I did is go back and look. It's just the most basic thing. You can go to 538 and you can search the polls for favorability ratings, searching for Harris and Trump. And when you look at the crap polls over the last 2 weeks, crap polls over the last 2 weeks, it shows Harris's favorability negative 2.6, which just means that a little bit more people think unfavorably of her. Trump's favorability at negative 4.5. So they look pretty comparable. You look at this and you're like, yeah, they're actually, the public thinks pretty poorly of both of them. All right. But when you separate out the crap polls, and the crap polls include Rasmussen, Trafalgar, Atlas Intel, Insider Advantage, Redfield Tip, RMG, On Message, Qantas, SoCal, Forbes, Hunt, Mitchell, McLaughlin, and ARC Insights, when you include all of those, and you start to toss them into the crap poll bin, then you begin to separate them from the independent pollsters. And the independent pollsters have a very different take. They're showing us very different numbers about favorability ratings. And favorability ratings really, really matter. They're very predictive of presidential outcomes. All right. So when we look at the independent polls, the quality polls, Harris's favorability has come all the way back from like minus 20 3 months ago to 3.1. When Harris wins this election, and it's not a guarantee, but if we keep working, we can get there. When Harris wins this election, people are going to be writing and studying this campaign for the next 20 years. All right.
Yes.
Unprecedented.
Same as Obama. So real quick on this. I think that the crap polls are maybe incentivized to maybe have truer numbers when she was announced, because in their eyes she was unfavorable. I think objectively she was rated very low as a vice president, and
Yeah.
so for them they were like, no, we're going to do a true poll because she's terrible. I mean, people don't like her, right? And so that's where we've seen their want to skew the results has increased over time as her favorability has increased.
Yeah. There's also considerable evidence that these crap polls are playing to Trump, to Trump. Okay.
Right.
And they want to give him positive things because then Trump goes around saying, Rasmussen said this. Okay.
Right.
So let's look at the generic congressional ballot. This is a question that's asked by pollsters fairly regularly. It just asks people, would you prefer the Democrats or the Republicans to have control of Congress after this election? And it's a very strong predictor of the U.S. House vote each election, and especially as you get close to the election like now. When you look at the crap polls, it tells us that the Republicans have a small advantage on the generic congressional ballot. When you look at the quality polls, it shows that the Dems have a pretty nice, little bit bigger, but still small, but little bit bigger advantage. But there's a 3-point gap between those two. All right. So again, which polls you're looking at. And the critique of kind of my argument here is that, oh, you just don't like the polls today because supposedly Trump's winning now. Yeah, the reason Trump is doing better in the polls now is because the polls are now flooded by
Yeah.
crap polls.
They're putting their weight on the scale even more.
It's just like a ton of syrup has been poured. Okay, it's crap syrup. All right. All right, last little bit on the polls. And so, because this is going to set the stage for where we go. Let's look at 3 really crucial states. And this is all I had time to pull together. Pennsylvania, Michigan, and North Carolina. Looking at the last 2 weeks, you look at the crap polls and the crap
Wait,
polls.
hold on. You said this is all you had time to pull together. You're saying these are new numbers. These are not the ones on the podcast that you did a couple days ago, right?
Some of them are, no, they're all updated since then.
Good, good,
They're
good, good.
all updated. But I mean, also, I don't have time to go through all the swing states.
Got it.
So if you look at the crap polls, they show Trump ahead, and this is what MAGA Nation loves, and they're out there touting how Trump's going to win. This all has a very sinister dimension in a few minutes here. It's not just fun and games, right? But when you look at the positive or the quality polls, you see Trump's Harris. You see Harris is doing quite well, or at least even as she is in North Carolina. Now we had a little test of this today that we showed on the podcast. Quinnipiac is one of the quality polls. And we had a number of Harris at 3.9 plus in Michigan. And Quinnipiac polled Michigan. And they released that poll today. And Quinnipiac is a quality poll. And so we had a little test of all of this. They released it at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And Charles and I said, let's
Just
wait
wait. Yeah.
until that poll drops so that we can have some evidence, or we have to kind of like begin to think that maybe we're wrong about this, right? And so Quinnipiac polled Michigan, and their number today was Harris +4. Okay, Harris +4. So that's what the quality polls tell us. They tell us this. They also tell us that Wisconsin is neck and neck, that Georgia's neck and neck, that Arizona's neck and neck, that Nevada's neck and neck. You can't say anybody's winning strong in any of these environments, which is perfect for us. Which is perfect for us because that's where get out the vote makes all the difference in the world then. Okay, last little bit about this. Why is this such a big deal? Why is it even worth talking about? Because it creates these narratives which discourage progressives. It makes us doom, 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 think we're going to lose. It stops our volunteer energy. It stops our financial giving energy. It stops
It
our
stops early voting.
stops early voting. And this polling propaganda is what Donald Trump will utilize to claim that this election was stolen from him.
Right.
All right. So this has a massive outcome effect that Trump is going to say, you stole it from me because look, I'm ahead in these polls. I'm ahead in these polls. All right.
And that's a part of the plan. That's a part of the plan. I think that the time is over for us thinking that their side magically ends up in the same areas. There's a plan now, and they're working their plan, and we all see it. It's the same game plan as before. It's just there's more people who are on board. All the same people, all the true conservatives, if I can say it that way, who the old school Republicans have left the seats of power in some of these organizations, and they're on the sidelines. And now you've got only people at the wheel who are in line with the Trump agenda.
Yeah, it's totally true. So in an interview that Vice President Harris did with NBC News yesterday, she was asked, what do you think about, I don't know the exact question, but it was about what do you expect from Donald Trump after the election? And will he claim that this is fraudulent if he loses? And Kamala Harris offered a very short and pointed response. And she said, we expect it, and we are prepared, and we will be ready. All right. And that, from Charles and me, we want to tell everybody here that we are expecting this after the election. We are expecting this. We are expecting to have to do some ballot curing in key states to make sure all the ballots are counted. We are expecting that we may need to mobilize in terms of pressure on elected officials to stand strong like we did last year. That we also need to be just together throughout this process and stay strong together. We don't know what will come. There could well be significant violence in this country.
I'm a little bit more optimistic about that. But I think the biggest violence piece that we've seen has been January 6th in terms of coordinated violence. There's been some static violence, but I mean the worst of it has been directed towards him. So I'm less worried about all the folks on this Zoom call and our community being in danger. I say this when I'm on the ground, but it has been true and it's still true that there's more danger going to school in America than knocking on doors or working with common power. That is a fact. That is a fact. So it's one thing to talk about the chances of something. It's another thing to have that all placed in context. Yes, ma'am.
I heard you said downstairs is an octopus.
I did.
Yeah,
you're right.
It's like the Autobots.
You want to say hi to people real quick? Say hi. This is September.
Hi, September.
Who's that right there? Who's that?
David.
That's David. That's right. Yeah. She knows who you are, man.
Hey, September, you're a rock star. How's your dad? He's all right too. All right.
Who are we Who are we voting for?
Kamala Harris.
That's right. That's right. And who are these people? Who are these people here?
Voters.
Those are voters. That's right. And they're also volunteers.
Yeah.
That's right. That's what we do.
Did this like the computer?
Just like your computer. That's right. She has a pretend computer where she talks to voters.
That's
Okay.
great.
She
She's
talks
making
to,
phone calls.
she
Excellent.
is. She is. And that's she's grown up with Common Power. Some of you folks know her from a baby. And can you go back down to mommy?
No.
Okay.
No.
She was born into Common Power. Larcy had her pregnant. She was pregnant and with her, and she grew up during COVID. And you all, some of you all on this screen, were the only people that she knew outside of her pod. So, she's ready. She's ready to do the work.
Is this good?
Hey, September. Oh, okay. Yeah, she was born March 10th, right? 2020.
She was born. She was born the day the school shut down in Seattle. We were in the hospital. And we got a call from our two other kids, and they said, "Yeah, we got to go home, Dad. COVID's here," and they shut down the schools. And that was also the same day that Larcy and I were filling out our ballots for the primary election. So she was born into COVID and the primary election. I remember doing a Zoom call from the hospital that same night, as we were rallying our community around this massive change. It slowed us down. It did, but it did not stop us. And that is a part of what the message is here today. Regardless of what goes on with this election, we may be slowed, but we will not stop. And we've got these Wednesdays, and we've got the Tuesday event, which is going to be a big celebration. And we've got Thursday, which is us coming together. And we're buckle up because we're going to come together again after that. It's not going to be done. The counting is not going to be finished by that Thursday. I hope no one's surprised by that. And David loves putting together ad hoc events. So there's going to be more weeks after this where we're going to come together as a community, talk about what we're hearing, talk about the counts that are going on. You're going to hear live some of the best analysis in the country from people like him and from Puya and other folks. We're going to bring in some guests from around the country, some of the partners we've worked with, and also there'll be all of you on the ground in the field that are going to give us live experiences. We're going to hear some of those here as well.
It really means a lot, Charles. I mean, we want to move on, but I want to just say you and Larcy have shared your world with us, and I'm treasure that, man. I really appreciate that.
Hey, when you love what you do, you bring your people that you love into that work, and then you also make loved ones out of the people that you work with. So when people say it's all love, I mean, I'm living it.
So, is it Britt? Yeah, Britt said, "Hey, David." I thought this was in the general. I guess this just got sent to me.
It
But
was
okay,
just you.
thanks, Britt. Okay, so, what's the ask, please? What's the ask? We're not here to ask for money tonight. All right. The final stretch is an opportunity for all of us to do more every single day for the next 2 weeks. That means more time, more conversations, and that does mean more money, but that's not what we're here about tonight. The ask is to be strong and determined tonight as a community. We're about to look now at some early voting data, all right? And the way we can think about this. So the ask is to be strong and determined, folks. We are together and we are winning. Democracy is winning.
Oh yeah. And also I love that Brit's like, tell me what to do, man. I'm ready to go. Brit is like, I have the check is here. How much?
But since you all did ask that, we'll be happy to follow up with all of you with information about that. Okay. So, all right. So
I was waiting for that. I was like, wait, David still runs fundraising at Common Power. So here we go.
So here's a couple polls we can trust because they're by quality pollsters. This is not a head-to-head analysis per se. This is looking at a couple different key groups. Here's a Latino poll by 3 different organizations that are the best of the best at polling Latinx voters. All right. The best of the best. And this poll came out 2 days ago, and it shows that Harris is running up numbers that are bigger than Joe Biden had in 2020. All right. That her numbers, and they're even stronger. The second bar across the bottom is in the battleground states. Okay. So
That's where it matters the most.
yeah, that's really, it's there, it
Yep.
only matters. So Latino vote, don't look at what Rasmussen says or Trafalgar says about the Latino vote, where they have like they will have them supporting Trump in the aggregate or something. It's not credible. Here's a poll. Uh, a, a, these are actually more than polls. They're massive surveys with thousands upon thousands of people. 1,800 in that Latino poll. That's a ton of people. This one was by the it's the APIA Vote National Organization, which tracks Asian American, Pacific Islanders, or the newer terminology, Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander voters.
Yes.
Okay.
AA and HPI. Yeah, get used to saying that.
And Charles, you've been a leader at our organization and connecting us with these with these orgs. It's awesome.
Yeah.
In
That's my
April,
my unknown half Filipino side that is people are like, he's black and something else. It's Filipino, y'all. And I've claimed it more and more. Let's go. Okay. April,
in
May.
in April, May, Biden was up by 15 among this collection of voters. In September, Harris was up by 38. Okay, massive gains. And then I love this data on the bottom where they did such a large survey that they're able
Mm,
to actually break out each of these subgroups. All right. And there's a cluster of Asian American summary at the top. And which each of this shows us is the movement from April and May to today. And we see that
mm.
her greatest movement is among Filipino and Indian voters in the United States. All
So
right.
quick point on that. Filipino and Indian voters populations over index on specific industries. Um, and they're sourced by specific companies. So the Indian folks are like more likely to be in engineering technology, and Filipinos nursing is a massive thing that sends them all over the country or all over the world. And then to specific states where there's a higher need of Filipinos. And so in those mixes, you see those populations that change the suburbs a
Yeah.
ton. This is where those of you who have knocked on doors with us in places like Arizona, Georgia, Texas, anywhere in the country where the suburbs are changing, most often they're changed by um, people of color that are moving into these areas, Indian American voters, and to a smaller degree, smaller number of Filipino voters that are massively shifting. They've changed the face of suburbs around the country. All right.
And one more piece here. So a poll, this came out today. A new United Auto Workers poll shows member
Mm,
support for Harris growing significantly in battleground states. All right. Union members in key swing states have Harris winning on average by 22 points. And white UAW members without a college degree, Harris now holds a 5-point lead. That's
that's
remarkable.
huge.
That's
That's a
remarkable.
that goes against trend. That goes against trend. So everywhere Kamala Harris is doing well with highly educated people across all demographic, across race and age. This is one that goes against that grain.
Yeah, quick aside on that, Charles. There's an interesting education finding. So across all, as you just said, across
Mm-hmm.
all racial groups, if you're highly educated, you're leaning towards Harris strongly.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, lower educated, which is often defined as high school graduation and maybe a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of college, but not a degree. If you're defined as lower education, ones without a college degree, if you're not white, you still favor Harris. Okay. Not as strongly, but you still favor Harris. But it is among white voters without the college degree that her support drops off the cliff. All right. It is
Mm-hmm.
only among white voters that massive educational disparity between college degree or not college degree matters. And that speaks so strongly to the white racism and white
Yeah.
kind of understandings of if whether they're going to vote for a woman of color.
Yeah, and that's a generational thing, and that goes all the way back to the origins of this country. The educational piece, though, is going to be the thing that we dig into for generations like ahead of us, and that's because of the way that information is impacting everything in our lives, including politics. But it's the ability to discern mis and disinformation, to understand motive and why somebody would want to manipulate you, and then how they're doing it, that requires levels of understanding and education. And that's in this internet age. And then as we are entering into the age of AI, and it's becoming more and more sophisticated and even difficult for people who are looking for it to find it, level of education and understanding of issues outside of technology, and then how to sift through it using technology, that is going to be the difference maker for us, for in the modern era here.
Yeah. So Susie asked a great question. Hey, the polls, they put us on this emotional roller coaster, but it's the way the media treats them that puts us on the roller coaster. Can we speak about the
Yeah.
media? Yeah, you're absolutely right, Susie, 100%. So stop using those media. Okay? Don't use those media. It's a reality of that we have our control. We have our ability. These are data that we're showing on this screen right now. Latino voters, AAPI voters, and UAW vote numbers, three different ways to look at the electorate. These data don't change overnight, all right? This is the data, all right? This is the data. Keep this in mind. Trust the data. All right.
So hold on. The other, I want to offer something else on this, and we'll probably touch on this later, probably after the election. There's new thought around information, and the thinking around information used to be that more information is better. And if we just stuff our heads with more information, we'll be smarter and we'll make better decisions. And the new studies have shown that information is actually like food, and more is not better. We actually have to establish a diet, and you have to choose better food, better information to consume. And you don't consume as much as possible. You consume a certain amount, and you don't consume all day long. You consume during specific times. And there are fasting periods that you should probably not eat, eat certain kinds of food in certain times, certain information, certain times. A lot of it has to do with where we are emotionally. So the thing that I will be talking about from here out, again, in this technology age and this age of mis and disinformation and artificial intelligence, it will be, what is an information diet that is healthy for us in the political ecosystem? How much of it should we consume? Where should we, David's telling you now where you should start to consume it from. But I think the amount and when we do it is something that we as a community, we've got to get smarter at. More is not better, and you should turn it off sometimes.
And that's where our podcast comes in. And part of it is that
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to distill this stuff and to do things so that you all have a trusted source with common power. And we'll keep trying to establish that credibility with you every day in our work. Um, but the reality is that I love that metaphor. Love it. We have to be much smarter about what we consume, when we consume it. That's great.
Yeah.
Look, when we get to this point in the election, there's a lot of votes that start to come in. A
I
thing
love
called
this. I love it because now we can start ditching some of the polls.
Yeah, and it's not a poll, it's a vote. A vote is
Yep.
not a poll.
It's
A
better.
vote is better. A vote requires effort. It requires you putting your name on something. It
Yep.
requires us deciding, who we're gonna stand with. Um,
The sample sizes are larger.
yeah, yeah, you tend to get thousands upon hundreds of thousands of people, millions.
Yep.
Um, so the wrong way to read early polling data is to look at the raw count of votes and to see who's winning or losing in the raw count of vote. You can't know that actually. We don't know who these people voted for. We don't know who people voted for. The kinds of things we can know are what county, how's the voting going in a particular county or a city. We can know in some states what is the racial identities of the voter. We can know in most states what is the gender identities of the voter.
Mm-hmm.
We can know in some states what the partisan affiliation is of the voter.
Yes.
Okay. So we don't know who they voted for. Once all you can know is who votes, not who they
Mm-hmm.
voted for. So when you do that, you got to really be thoughtful about what are the inferences? What are the things we take away from this? All right. So over and over and over and over again in the political analysis window, the really effective analysts will say friends don't let friends analyze early voting data. Okay.
Good.
Because nobody does it the right way.
Mm.
The way to do it is to look at who's voting and then to draw logical inferences based upon it. And that's all it can be is a logical kind of inference. So here we go. As an example, this guy, Joshua Smithley on Twitter, has been somebody I've been following for the last decade in Pennsylvania. He's been a very trustworthy analyst and he tracks the numbers. He doesn't overstate anything. And so on October 7th, he said, look, I'm going to track the data. And if we can track partisan data, which you can do in Pennsylvania, if the Democrats can get more than 390,000 votes than Republicans in early voting, then you can start to feel good about their chances to win. Okay, because that'll be such a big gap going into election day vote. And he would say for the Senate, because Bob Casey draws a lot of Republican votes, you'd only probably need 335,000 votes for the Dems. So really interesting here. He says, you know what? I'm going to tell you a number that you might actually be able to pay attention to when we look at the daily partisan data, which parties are turning in their ballots. But you see, after Smithley did this, a whole bunch of people started wailing and arguing and disagreeing and questioning Smithley. And they said, really, is 390,000 votes? I need to know, when can I really feel comfortable that the Democrats are in good shape? He go, really, at 390,000? I don't believe you. And he said, fuck it, fine. All right. And so he crossed out 390,000 and he said 500,000. All right. At 500,000 votes, if we can track that number before election day, then the Dems should feel pretty good about going into election day. So here's as of today. All right. Every single morning, he posts the Secretary of State data. And as of this morning, there have been 1,123,000 votes cast. These are absentee ballots that have been returned. All right. This is about 15% of the total universe that will vote in Pennsylvania. All right. When you look at who these are, we can see this kind of breakdown. Far more of them are Democrats and Republicans, but that is not what's important. We cannot pay that much attention to that. All right. We can pay a little bit of attention to it, but not much. We're much more interested in the percent that have returned their ballots. Are Dems more likely to be returning their ballots than Republicans? That tells us enthusiasm, folks. That tells us about enthusiasm. So when you look at the votes so far, the Dems have a 356,000 ballot edge. And people will wrongly look at that and say the Dems are actually doing worse than in 2020 because they had a bigger ballot edge than this in 2020. Because there are way more Democrats in 2020 who voted by mail than will vote by mail this time. More Dems have come back to vote in person. So you look at this number, and that number is pretty big. It's not 500,000, but it's well on its way to 500,000. But you could interpret that as the Dems are doing well, or you could interpret it as that the Dems are not doing as well as 2020. Either way, I don't really care. Doesn't matter to me. What I care about is the percent returned. And the percent returned is telling me that the Dems are returning the ballots at a 6% greater clip than Republicans. 12 days into the election. That return edge tells me that the Dems are very enthusiastic about this election. All right. And that really matters. Enthusiasm really matters. So I get out of this the fact that Dems are building up what he's called a firewall or ballot edge. That's good. More important to me is that the Dems are very enthusiastic about their ballots. Usually that return edge has historically been in the early vote more like 2 or 3%. It's bigger this year. All right. Okay, so let's move on a little bit. Let's stay in Pennsylvania. These are the ballot returns by county. Again, we don't know who they voted for, but we do know the partisan affiliation of the voter who returns the vote. So we know that they've said, I'm a Democrat or Republican or an independent. So this doesn't tell us who they voted for, but it tells us what party they registered as. And Allegheny is the returned the most. That's Pittsburgh. And Philadelphia, Montgomery is a suburb of Philadelphia. Bucks is a suburb. Chester is a suburb. Delaware is a suburb. Tonight, Kamala Harris is actually in Delaware County doing a town hall with undecided voters. CP has worked so far in these two counties.
I
I
was going
don't
to say, this is good. Go ahead. Keep going.
I don't know which counties we're going to work in the next 2 weekends, but we've worked in Bucks and Chester so far.
Likely not Bucks.
Because Bucks is getting all these volunteers now from a lot of places, right?
Bucks is over indexed on volunteers. Yep, that's what we're hearing.
So we've worked in Bucks and Chester. So how is it doing? Like when you look at that return rate, the number of ballots requested and the ones that have returned, how's Bucks looking? So here's Bucks. On the left side, we see the percentage of all of the ballots that have been requested by party. Democrats requested 54% roughly of all the ballots, Republicans about 1/3 of all the ballots, and independents 14% of all the ballots. But when you look at the returns, the Dems are exceeding their request percentage. They're 7 or 8% up on their request percentage. Republicans are just a tad up, and indies are down quite a bit. This gap, this Democratic greater than exceeding the Republicans, shows us about enthusiasm, and it also shows us about how we're helping to get out the vote there. That's partly us.
That's exactly right. Yep.
When you go to the door, the ask for us in a door knock today, because you cannot vote in person in Pennsylvania ahead of time. The only thing they can do today is vote by mail. So that's what you're asking people to do. And if they can't vote by mail, then do it on election day.
Yep.
But we're asking them to turn in their votes, because when they turn in that vote, then we can go knock somebody else's door next time.
That's exactly right. And a lot of them are incentivized to stop the knocking. They know they're in a battleground county. And so one of the things we tell them is, hey, if you vote, you come off the list. You stop knocking on your door.
Exactly. Here's Chester, same data. Look at ballot requests on the left, and you look at returns on the right. And again, the Democrats are returning at a higher percentage than they requested, and at a greater differential than Republicans relative to the requests. This is exactly what we want to see. Why are we showing these two counties? Because this is where Common Power's been doing their work.
Yeah.
Right. This is like a little test at some level of whether or not we are efficacious in these spaces.
This is good. You're starting to bring out your bigger words, by the way. I know that you try to play down the PhD sometimes, but it's starting to come out. I don't know if it's because we're getting a larger audience, but I like it, man. Keep it going.
Okay. So let's look at Michigan.
Oh, why? Oh, in Michigan. Interesting. Any significance?
Some people say the greatest state in the country. Yes. Some
really?
people are known to say this.
Interesting. Crap polls or good polls say that. Anyways, continue. All right.
This is the turnout rates, or I should say the return rates for the top 20-ish. I don't know how many is actually on this page. I think it's 20 right now, this screen capture. And you can see that this is sorted right now by the second column, the mail return rate. So how many ballots have been returned? I'm sorry, it's sorted by the mail sent. So the total number of ballots that were requested as of yesterday in the state of Michigan, 2.2 million. And then it's sorted by the municipalities. Wayne County is the county, Detroit is the city, Kent County, Grand Rapids is the city, Washtenaw, Ann Arbor City, and so on and so on. So a couple of things I want to point out. I want us to pay attention to that column right there, which is the return rate. What's the percentage of return rate in each county? This is, again, a way that we can analyze data. We can see, do the counties that traditionally vote Democratic, are they returning ballots at a higher level? That's what we're hoping for. That's
yes.
what we're hoping for.
So I just want you to know, I want to shout out to the folks on this call right now who have been knocking on doors in Michigan? Because I know you're looking at your county right now. I know you're looking at your county. In fact, if you've been knocking on doors in Michigan or Pennsylvania, if you can drop in the chat which county you were knocking on doors in and claim it as a volunteer. It's good stuff.
So
Okay.
when you look at the return rate per county, you want and per municipal district, so it's county and then the city within it, we can see that right off the bat, Detroit, a very, very blue city, has the highest number on this table, has the highest return rate on the table.
Yeah, as it should, right?
That's good news,
Yep.
right? Really good news for us. We don't know who these people voted for, but historically, Detroit's going to vote about 85-15 for the Democrat. Okay. So that's pretty good. Now, we haven't done work in Detroit per se. All right.
Not yet.
Where has CP done work? CP's done work in two places. One is in Lansing.
Lansing and in
So
Flint.
Lansing is the second, yes, and then Flint is second. Lansing is the second highest number return rate on
I
the
love
table.
that.
On the table. All right. Second highest on the table. Now, Flint is a smaller city. So because this screen capture that I've got here is sorted by the number of total ballots requested, Flint is just right off the bottom. It actually doesn't make the screen capture. So you know what? I went to the Michigan voter tracker data, which is all available online, and I looked it up for Flint so that I could add it to this.
I was gonna say, man, I saw another version of this and it was there.
Right, it was earlier, but
Yeah,
Flint is right off the bottom here. All right, so there's Flint right there.
that's what I'm talking about, man. 59%.
Flint is actually higher than anybody else on this table. All right, that's what a just and inclusive democracy starts to look like, folks. All right.
So these are when we go on these trips, we're knocking out like 5,000 doors on a trip. So when you look at these numbers here, this is 11,000 that were sent out and 6,000 that have been sent back. We're doing work, y'all. We're like it is easy. It'd be easy to draw a line to some of these voters. There are people that we talk to. Very easy. And is it a coincidence that we get sent to the two places that have some of the highest response rates? I don't know. I don't know. We'll
So
see.
we're going to Warren this weekend. Warren is at 44% right now. Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna test it out.
Right. One more thing about Michigan. So these don't tell us relative to 2020. This is all return rates relative to the request rates here in 2024. There is a little bit of data. I can't get it for all the cities, but I can get Detroit for relative to 2020. So as of yesterday, 10/22, the percentage of 2020 vote for the state of Michigan, there's 1.2 million votes that are in, and that's 22.5% of what 2020 was. All right. This is Detroit as of yesterday. 64,000 votes in, and they're 25% of their 2020 vote. So Detroit is ahead of the statewide average. All right. That's what we want to see out of Detroit. And we're not doing work in Detroit, so we can't claim it, but we have done work in Michigan since 2018. And the reason why Detroit is voting at high numbers this year is because they have instituted no excuse absentee voting and in-person voting in the state of Michigan and in Detroit. And so this is the first year for in-person early voting, and Detroit is the first city to implement it. And
we have that because we took over the state.
Exactly, because we won.
only have that because we control the bodies of that government that make these kinds of decisions.
And we've passed ballot initiatives in the state too.
That's right. We've been knocking on doors since 2018, and Alyssa Slotkin knows who we are. She knows who Common Power is.
So here's Tom Bonnier, who runs Target Smart, a great data analytic firm. And I'm almost done with the different data, folks. Bonnier just tweeted this about an hour and a half ago. He said, I've been saying for several days now that the early vote looks strong for Dems in Michigan. A huge driver for that is turnout among modeled Dem women. What he means by modeled Dem women is we don't know the partisan affiliation of any of these folks, but you can use all kinds of characteristics about them and make reasonable guesses. That's called modeling. So these are folks he's guessing are Dem women. At this point in 2020, Republican guessed or modeled women were turning out at a higher rate than Dem women, 3.6 points. Right now, Dem women have a 5.7 point advantage. All right.
That's huge.
When you elect in the top 4 offices in the state, women, and you pass an abortion rights initiative in 2022 in the state overwhelmingly, all right, this is a state that we should feel good about going into election day, as long as we keep working. As long as we keep working.
All right. Yeah, this is compared to 2020. I mean, that's that's really good. Go ahead, Arizona, one more state. Here we go.
Yeah, this is, and I only have one little bit on the slide. This is it. Okay. Because I'm just starting to dive into Arizona data. Now, Sam Almy is a local analyst that a lot of people follow, and I've been starting to get acquainted with him and to track his stuff against other people's data. And as of a couple hours ago, he said, here's the total number of votes that have been voted in the state. We don't know who they voted for. These are by the people that voted for them. 329,000 by people who are identified Democrats, 382,000 by people that are identified Republicans, and then 204,000 that are identified independents. That's who's cast these votes. We don't know who they voted for. That's who's cast them, and that's a Republican advantage. So the wrong way to look at this data is to think the Republicans must be winning in Arizona. But actually, among registered voters in Arizona, there's a pretty sizable Republican advantage among registered voters in the state. Democrats only win Arizona by winning Republican registered voters. That's the way it works.
Okay, and independents.
Yep. And independents. So what we really want to look at again is the return rate for these folks. And the turnout rate is this. Among Democrats, they've returned 26% of their ballots. Republicans have returned 24.8%, independents far fewer. So Republicans do have more ballots that they've cast, but Dems have greater enthusiasm, 1.4% in a turnout advantage. If Democrats repeat what they've done in 2018, 2020, 2022, and Republicans repeat what they've done in 2018, 2020, 2022 in Arizona, we're on a good track. We're on a good track. All right. So
love that. And we've got I think 120, something like that, headed to Arizona here in 2 days, flying out Friday.
Yeah, last little bit I'll just mention, because we got a team going to Nevada too, right, this weekend.
Yep.
So we have to be very, very careful in looking at early voting data. So I peruse this, I look through it, I cross-reference it. Here's an example of why we have to be so careful. So Nevada reports early voting data, and lots of people pay attention to Nevada because the guy who reports them there, his name is John Ralston, is really, really good. Very, very trustworthy. Ralston has been reporting data for the last couple of days. Early votes in person is happening, and so is mail vote in Nevada. And Republicans have an advantage in the total raw counts of votes. When you just look at total raw counts. And so everybody starts saying, wow, Republicans, because that's unusual in Nevada. Republicans haven't had an advantage in Nevada in raw vote, in early vote ever. Wow, this is a remarkable shift, a remarkable shift. But then some further analysis by people have pointed out 2 things. First, when the state implemented automatic voter registration in 2018, which is a great structural thing, you get registered to vote with the state when you get your driver's license. We helped to get that passed in 2018.
That should be in a National Voting Rights Act.
100%. Every state should have it. It's a game changer. It's changed Georgia. It's great. When AVR was implemented, starting in 2019 in Nevada, all these young people who were getting registered to vote started selecting no party. They started selecting no party. And percent of people who are Democrats have declined significantly because many people who are actually Democratic voters in their preferences are now registered as no party because they just weren't
Hmm.
willing to identify as Democrats. Republicans have stayed kind of steady. They haven't had any drop off since AVR started. So what really is the case is that the first thing is that independent voters lean much more Democratic in the state than they used to. And so you've got to
Hmm.
take that into account when we're looking at who's turning out to vote. When you bring that into account,
And definitely young women. This
young
election.
women, young communities of color
Yeah.
in Nevada. So we can't just look at who's voting. We can't just do that. But then second, check this out. Washoe is the second biggest county in the state. It's where
Hmm.
Reno is. Washoe announced about 4 hours ago that they've had a glitch in their computer tracking, and
Oh,
they're
wait, is it a
actually
glitch is it a glitch that favors them?
it favors Republicans. This
Oh,
is a surprise,
whoa.
okay?
Wow.
And they have thousands of votes that they've received in their mail votes, which are highly Democratic,
Hmm.
but they've not been able to add them to their tallies so far. And they're going to add them this evening. Okay, they're going to catch it all up. So we could respond to that and say, there's a conspiracy here. Or we could say, well, we're glad you got that straight. And of course, that's what we
We're
say.
saying both. We're saying both.
uh,
Yeah.
so the reality is that when those votes get added to, the Democrats are going to start to get right back even with the Republicans, even when a lot of those Democrats have peeled off and become independents.
Hmm.
So we got to take it all one step at a time when we look at this analysis. And most important, we need to just keep doing the work.
Yes.
We just got to keep doing the work, right?
It's within a margin of effort. I well, and I also want to, I think that you're going to be analyzing these things daily. So, look for the with CP episodes on YouTube because as soon as they're hot off the presses, we're going to be. I mean, David will do it by himself in the middle of the night. So this is the time. There's some moments where there's a lot of theater going on from David Domke. Let me just say that. Okay. These are the moments that it is red hot info to your brain that you need. You need this is gold. It's pure fucking David Gold right here. He was made for this moment in politics. Everything is pointing towards these. Yes, look up in the sky like yes, that's right. That's perfect. Yes, that's really good. He was made for these moments. You need to listen to this daily. And I wouldn't say this all the time, but I'm telling you right now, you need to listen to what he's putting out daily, maybe even twice a day. It's going to get so good and the information is going to come like a fire hose. You need to listen to this multiple times a day. Click the bell on the thing so you get the little thing on the notification pops up when he does it like 3 a.m. in the morning. You need to listen to that as well. I'm telling you, it's worth it. It's worth it for the information, but it's worth it for your sanity during these 2 weeks.
So this is the final stretch, folks. Charles and I will now engage in the after credits by taking whatever questions that everybody wants. We will be happy to take any questions. And in all seriousness, I mean, that's really nice, Charles. Thank you for saying those things. But always, it's a joint CP production, all of
Always,
this.
always.
The the reality is we need to stretch everybody, everybody. This is a moment where we have to go beyond our comfort zones, like and then beyond our comfort zones, and then into like an alternative universe. All right, because in 2 weeks we're going to be done with all of this one way or another in terms of the voting, and then we're going to
Mm-hmm.
live with whatever it is. We are, and we're going to keep working, working, working. But for right now, we're all in. We're all
Yeah. And I want to, as we enter into this Q&A period, I want to not handicap us by not elevating this person up so that they can help answer some questions. Ben, are you in the audience? Ben is here.
Hello, I'm here.
All right, we're gonna pin you. Can you? Is she pinned? Oh
No,
wait, a spotlight.
no,
Wait, how do you do it
spotlight.
right? David,
I got
David,
it. I got
fix
it.
it.
David has to do it, but David has to do it for everybody, not just
Okay,
me.
I
David's gonna
will.
fix it.
I'll
So,
get Charles too.
Ben,
David,
Ben,
you have a literal spotlight on you right now. Like the only light source is on your head in your
his
room.
his lighting is very good right now.
Yeah, I know.
He's
It's just
he's
like,
really he's upped his game. You've
I've been
got a
getting
nice
some consulting. What can I say? Okay. All
you
right.
have you've got Ben, you've got a nice background behind you. that is in the office downtown. That's our First and Spring office right there. I love the cat ladies, childless cat ladies for Kamala. But Ben runs our field work. All of the team leads that lead our teams and the volunteers that are on these trips, the folks doing the weekends of action in Washington and Maryland and New York, and then down to Oregon. This is all Ben's strategy and her moving the pieces around. She should totally be here with us as we answer some questions.
All right, we need questions, folks. This is the time. What questions you got?
What do we got? Let's look back at the chat here. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. What do you think of the New York Times, David?
As a news organization or as a poll?
Both. How about independently? Let's go one and then the other.
I think that they've, as they say in the political world, they've lost the plot in their news coverage. They have so gotten caught up in representing and trying to be fair to, in their sense, to the Trump world, to MAGA world, that they've lost their ability to criticize him and them accurately. And they write some of the most unbelievable stuff today that is just, to me, just is not objectively correct. It's just not. It treats, when Trump is talking about gene pools and why it is that immigrants should be deported from this country, they talk about it as he's interested in the genetics, as opposed to he's a eugenicist. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of their polls, their polls fall into the quality polls. They do. I find them to be, I think, a little bit more conservative in their poll outcomes, but they meet the criteria, and I trust them and I believe in them. But they're one of a whole bunch of quality polls. In the quality poll bucket, you got to average all the quality polls. The thing is to take the crap polls out of the bucket first. All right, take the crap polls out of the bucket first.
Okay, we gotta get a list where we can reference which polls are in which of those columns, David, for reference for people. The thing I'd say, just to follow that, is to just stay out of the editorial sections of newspapers for the next couple weeks. Don't do that to yourself. Okay, that you want to go on a roller coaster ride emotionally, look at editorials, because they're looking for clicks, y'all. They know that you're hunting for things and you're worrying, and they want your clicks, your worry clicks. Okay. Musk. Let's talk Elon Musk. Do we think that Elon Musk is going to make a difference at this point? Oh, I love this because we didn't talk about this during the podcast today.
Yeah. So how would Musk make a difference? He's got a couple different ways. One is he's personally campaigning.
Yep.
For Trump. He's personally campaigning for Trump in Pennsylvania, especially. And as Tim Walz called him a dipshit yesterday. He's jumping around. He's doing crazy things. He's clearly an acolyte of Donald Trump. Clearly,
he's paying people. He's paying people to register to vote.
Exactly.
Which is pretty unheard of. Which is skirting that campaign finance line.
It's actually illegal. It's not skirting any line. You can't offer any financial incentives to get people to vote.
No. He's doing it to register to vote.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. He's doing it
yeah, but that was like after his lawyers got a pass at it. I think his first brush was just like, here's a lot of money if you vote.
Right. So I think it seems like to us on the left that he's nobody, or that he doesn't have any influence. But there are a lot of dudes on Twitter that love Elon Musk. There are
absolutely.
He's got a following. He's also got the evidence. He's one of the greatest entrepreneurs this country's ever seen. And it's tough to refute that. I understand that there's like all kinds of things about where his money came from and all that. And also he has built these wild and crazy things that other people haven't.
He's got 4 ways he can influence the election.
Oh, you added another one just now. It's good. Okay, go.
The first one is through his own personal popularity among a lot of people. So he's
Yep.
out there campaigning. The second is that he is actually, as you're saying, giving money to every day $1 million to a voter in Pennsylvania, not to vote especially, but to sign a petition that says that they support Donald Trump. So it's essentially that. Okay, the third way he could do it is by funding the Trump campaign with money for advertising. And the fourth way is through the get out the vote operation that Musk is running for the Trump campaign. So Ben and Charles, I would like to ask you, no one has been out in the field more than you two for Common Power over the last 9 months, and especially the last month and a half. How many times in your travels and your work out there have you seen a Musk Republican canvasser?
A Musk one? I don't know. They don't advertise themselves like that. But
Or a
a
Republican canvasser.
Republican, I would say that like, I mean, it's pretty common, right? It's not uncommon. I ran into one in North Carolina and a couple of other states, and they always are very forthright that they're paid canvassers. Very few of them are actually volunteers.
You ran into a couple in other states?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anybody else run into it? Put it in the chat. Have you seen a canvasser on the other side? Folks in the field?
Mm-hmm.
I've never
And also
seen
where?
one.
You
Yeah,
never seen one? Really?
never seen
Not even
one.
Scooter Guy? Scooter Guy in PA?
Scooter guy?
Scooter Guy. Yeah, he was on a scooter and he whipped around suburbia doing laps on all of us. And we wish we had a scooter.
But
And
he
how
was just
much
doing lit drops. He was
how
doing
much
lit drops.
how much
At least.
literature have you seen at the doors from Republicans?
Oh,
Once.
a
One.
lot.
You
Oh,
saw a lot? Where?
yeah. Wait, we're not in the same states. I totally
Yeah, we're
forgot.
not.
You
Go
go to
ahead. Where
different
where have you
states.
seen it? Where have you seen it?
I've seen them in Montana. I've seen them in some places in PA, definitely in North Carolina. I think some of the overlap have been is kind of like poor working class neighborhoods, especially, or constituents that are more independent or Republican leaning, like Tester's constituents and stuff like that. Yeah, we get triplet.
Trump signs are not like Trump lit though. That's different.
You're talking about Trump signs. We see them in PA.
No, no, no,
Oh,
no. I'm looking at the chat here. It's talking about Trump signs. Yeah, we see Trump
oh,
signs everywhere.
yeah.
It's literature and canvassing. One of the reasons why this question comes up alongside Elon Musk is because there's a story out that so Elon Musk recently took over the ground game for Donald Trump, and there's a story that 25% of their canvassing data is false. It's fake data. They're getting tricked by their own folks. There's a story out actually earlier this year, I would say March or May, where they discovered that they tracked them using geolocation. People who were supposed to be knocking on doors in Las Vegas were actually at the slots instead, and they were just marking not home and whatever. Um, so this is one of those things where culturally, if you're a campaign that hires a lot of grifters, if you're a president that is a grifter and employs people who lie and cheat and steal, then they will lie and cheat and steal with you as well. And that's why their ground game is not like ours. We may see folks here and there, but it's not the same as ours. You don't see groups of volunteers on the right. Never. You may see a one-off person here and there, but you don't see groups of volunteers that are knocking on doors for Donald Trump.
So somebody asked a question about Nate Silver, who wrote a piece that was published today, which said, it was like the headline is something like, in my gut says Trump, but you shouldn't trust anybody's gut, including mine. All right,
Hmm,
that was the headline.
good.
And I completely agree with Silver that you shouldn't trust anybody's gut.
Especially his.
Okay. Um, I do not think that this is a gut election. I think everybody is too invested and connected about this to trust their gut on this. I think you need data. And so this is where the early voting data begins to help us. This is where knocking doors and thousands and thousands and thousands of doors, that is data. So Trump and MAGA want to destroy us so that we feel in our gut a pit of despair and then doubt, doubt, doubt. That's not what the Democrats are doing. They're running an efficient data analytic campaign, and we are being guided by them on that respect. So when we need data, and that enthusiasm data in Pennsylvania, that enthusiasm data in Michigan, that enthusiasm data in Arizona, that to me is the kind of data that I need to base it upon, to base our sessions on.
Yeah, and David, can I add to that? And then I also want to answer a question here from Allison. We were just on, so Puya, who is not on this call because he's on a plane right now from Georgia, is another member of the fieldwork team. If you've been around podcasting with David and Charles, you've probably seen him. He does a lot of calls with our partner organizations across the country. And we're on a lot of calls the last few weekends here to just kind of figure things out. And I'll just share that we were just on a call with an organization in Michigan and an organization in Arizona. And let me just say that they're all the whole data point is so, so crucial. Like they're telling us where they're sending volunteers. And I'm not just saying volunteers as in like a handful of people. These organizations are dealing with hundreds of volunteers, of which we are a fraction of those hundreds, right? There are 400 to 500 volunteers on election weekend with our partner alone in Arizona. And they're telling us that like, hey, we're monitoring early voting data. We thought you're going to be in this district here, but we're seeing a lot of turnout for that. So we're thinking about sending you south in Phoenix instead, where we're
Okay.
not seeing engagement or turnout. Same thing in Michigan. They're like, Mai Xiang's district, like she's running away with it. Like a lot of voters are turning in their ballots. Enthusiasm is high. We're focusing all of our resources on House District 57. So that's where we're sending you. So our partners are actively talking through us through this and doing the same thing that we're all trying to do here too, which is to look at data, what's actually being turned in.
Yeah.
So
I mean, our last trip to Pennsylvania was supposed to be in Bucks County, and days before was routed to Chester, which sent us out an extra hour to get to our turf every single day. Yeah, that's how we're being activated. Let me just say though that you said that we're a part of the hundreds or thousands of volunteers being mobilized everywhere, tens of thousands around the country. But in Georgia, where you said Puya is coming back from right now,
yeah,
when we launched in Cobb County, at the location that we launched at with, I think like 35 people, 40 people we launched with. On that day, we were the largest canvas launch in the state of Georgia on that day, the largest in the state. Our one group, our that almost didn't go to Georgia, of 30 to 40 people in Cobb County. We're the largest volunteer launch in the state on that day. That's saying a lot about our impact. It says a lot about how important our volunteers are and how meaningful your volunteer efforts and hours are with us.
absolutely. And this is a good segue into Allison's question here. Allison says that they're writing letters for Vote Forward. Is it, like, should we keep writing? And how will voters in these states react to all the focus on them? So I think there's two things in that. One is that if you're living in a swing state, you've had the focus on you all year. This is not new, and it's only going to ramp up, right? So to one of the points earlier, if we get them to the polls, if we get their ballots in faster, they'll be less bothered at the end of the day. But about writing postcards, we're an organization that feels that in-person, face-to-face conversation is the most effective way to get voters to a poll, period.
Yep.
That's why
Yep.
all of our resources and time is spent traveling all across the country. Not to say that postcards don't add to it, right? It takes multiple touches to get people out there. I will say too that it has a bit of like a time constraint to it. We're 2 weeks out, like postcards, I feel are most effective in the beginning when there isn't as much layered contact of phone banking and door knockers at people's doors. I feel like right now, one of the most impactful things you can do if you can't travel is hop on a ballot curing phone bank. It is
Yeah.
too, because early voting has started. Like people are already returning in their ballots. People are getting screened for like mistakes and all of that. Dems across the country have set up ballot curing phone banks and text banks to make sure that those votes that are coming in actually get counted. You've seen some of the margins here, how thin some of these margins. Some of the polls are within the margins of error. Elections are win within margins of less than that, right? And it could be because someone didn't write their signature right. Someone forgot to go to the polls on election day. Someone ballots got misplaced, they didn't set it in the correct way. So I would say if you're thinking about doing work and writing postcards, I would hop on a phone bank instead to cure ballots.
Yes, that's great. And our entire squads program, the program that we have where you get together with your friends and you do remote work, that is entirely shifting towards ballot curing stuff. That's
Uh,
good stuff.
Ben, somebody, Mary Stevens asked, do you think and I think you just referenced this, do you think we'll go somewhere other than Detroit and Michigan? Where are we going?
Um, so we're going to the suburbs of Detroit. Detroit, as in like the city of Detroit, that's not where we're canvassing. We're canvassing north. So Warren, the city of Warren, and the city of Sterling Heights, which is in Macomb County, just north of Detroit, like about half an hour.
Yeah, that's on the next ship coming up. Um, I think I want to say Milwaukee is the only city where we knock on doors like right in the heart of the city. Every other state we go to, it's some suburb of a major city. We fly into Philly, but we've not yet knocked on doors in Philly this fall. We knocked on doors in Philly in the spring for the primary. Close to the election, though, all the trips that are the week of the election, highly likely that we're going to be doing GOTV stuff that is closer to some of these urban centers.
Diane, your question about ballot curing in Pennsylvania, I'm not sure. Are those available on Mobilize or are those not available on Mobilize right now? Ben.
So I would say, so this is what I did, right? I literally just Googled PA Dems ballot
Yeah,
curing phone bank, and
they're
this is the
doing it.
first thing that popped up.
They're doing it
So
right
you
now.
can do the
Yeah.
same. You can do the same for any state. And I just dropped in there, Diane. If you want to just click on it, that's the first result I found.
Yeah, so they're really easy to find on mobilize.us. All of our stuff is on mobilize.us as
Yeah.
well.
Or just Google. I feel like mobilize.us is pretty hard to navigate if you're not familiar with it.
Okay,
So
okay.
yeah, just
You
Google it.
can okay. Almost every organization on the left is running all of their volunteer opportunities through Mobilize. That's why we got on there. But I think there's a county by county. We learned that there's a county by county decision about ballot curing.
Mm.
And so this is why it's not as easy as some other states. And this is why we're going to end in the state and likely stay there if there's post-election work to be done. Almost all the fieldwork team is going to be in that state. And we have not bought return tickets from that state. We only know we're going there on that election week.
I think that the ballot curing in Pennsylvania, in North Carolina, in Nevada, in Arizona, these could be really crucial. All right,
Oh
they
yeah.
could be absolutely crucial. So
Oh yeah.
we will stand ready to do that. I know already people are doing that, as Diane's referencing. There's quite a bit of ballot curing that's going on in Nevada, in Washoe
Mm-hmm.
County right now. So folks, this is the kind of thing that like the antidote to questions and doubts and fears and anxiety is action every time. It's action. So this is the final stretch. Literally every day we wake up and we say, what more can we do? What more can we do? Tomorrow we'll be on the phone talking to the campaign for the Nebraska
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Independent.
whoa, 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 whoa,
We're just,
whoa, whoa.
Hold
I think
on,
we
hold
should,
on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep it on ice, man. Keep it on ice.
Hold
we're
on,
just
wait.
getting information,
Is this
okay?
being recorded? Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
With the Nebraska JV, junior varsity.
Team. No. We
Team.
can. I mean, yeah, that's good though. Let's talk about it because then maybe you'll commit to it. So what David is doing is deciding on
Gathering information.
if David is going to go to Nebraska
I see.
because he is the only additional head count that we have that hasn't been tasked already for field leadership. So we may call an audible and send a small group to Nebraska. And we're going to find out more on a call tomorrow with somebody who may be the next senator in that state.
Absolutely, we are, because we need to assess every possible way that we can win one more Senate seat. So Colin Allred or Dan Osborne in Nebraska,
Or both. That's right.
exactly. We have got to do that. That's what we owe all of you and what we're going to do. So we're going to gather some more information. All right.
That's right. So, Rod, if you're not traveling,
Rod's traveling. Rod's not even back to
Barb,
fill out his ballot. Okay.
Bill, Jen, I'm just calling out the first page of this Zoom here. Allison, that's enough people to form a team right there, Dave.
Jen will
you want to
go. I
recruit
know
right
Jen
now?
will go. Jen will go.
Jen is
How with you?
automatic.
Jen's going to PA. Jen,
Jen's
yeah.
already going to PA? Oh,
Yes.
okay. Well, maybe she just won't go home. Jen, just don't look, whatever, reroute, don't go home. And then
Rod is ready to go right now.
Rod is ready to go.
We're off to Texas.
Okay, right.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's what we need. That's what we need. Colin Allred. That's great.
We're in Texas this weekend, Rod. You're there, right?
That's right.
With
Yep.
Elizabeth.
Yep. And then we're off to Arizona, and we'll stay in Arizona if we need to.
Okay, that's good. So that's the attitude we need right there. That's it.
All right, this is good enough for right now, folks. We have 2 weeks to go. The final stretch. It takes everything we got. All right.
13 days, less than 2 weeks. 13 days. Podcasts every day, maybe multiple times a day. Watch this space, y'all. Look up into the light again, David. Look up to, there you go. That's right.
Oh, the side profile. Okay.
That's good. Somebody just took a screenshot of that, man. You got lots of fans
Can we get the right side too? Just so there's symmetry.
For some different reasons.
Yeah, there you go.
Whatever it takes. Yeah, whatever.
I got my hair cut for this today.
Okay. Did you really? Can you show us the legs? Can we? Oh no, we're going too far. All right. Thanks, y'all.
No, time to end it. Time to end it.
See ya. Let's go, people.
Have a good night.
Goodbye.